Stephen Scott and Marques Brownlee. Now, the Humane AI Pin reviews are in, and we've got to talk about that. But, I think we should kick off, Mark, by explaining what this device is, because, there's been a lot of talk about this device in the tech world. So let's get into this. What is the Humane AI Pin, and why is everyone so excited about it this week?
Yeah, I don't know if excitement would be the word I'd use these days because the reviews aren't terribly great for it. But to remind you what the pin is itself, it's about a quarter of a smartphone size, and it has a magnet in the back that is designed to stick to your shirt. Or so you have the front part, which has a camera and a touchpad on it, and the back, which is a battery booster, will magnetically connect that to a piece of clothing. So that's what the pin is, and the whole goal is to not kind of replace the smartphone, so to speak, because there's voice activation, there's a LED or like laser display if you hold your hand out in front of it that you can actually use gestures to try and control. And the idea here is that it's connected with its own cell phone connection and can give you an AI assistant wherever you go. That being said, Stephen, I do not remember in my history a product that has come out with so much negativity around its feature set. And I think this is, a lot to do with the fact that there were promises made, and this is one of the first new devices that really showed a lot of interesting promise. I mean, they raised a lot of money. OpenAI was behind it. There's some Microsoft involvement. Lots of capital was raised. I mean, the founders were former Apple designers and engineers. So there's a lot of talk about this. But unfortunately, what we've seen in a lot of the reviews is that it's just not performing the way it should, the speed at which it should, the performance, the answers it's giving. It's just not performing the way it should. And it begs the question, I think, that you and I should really kind of dive into here a little bit, which is a device like this even necessary in the first place? I've got an Apple Watch. There are smartwatches out there. We've got our smartphone with us. I don't think anybody's ditching their smartphone any day, anytime soon. So do we even need to be carrying another device that's dedicated to AI when the devices we have are constantly getting smarter and brighter?
Well, I think we look at this from a different perspective, or we should look at it from a different perspective, right? Because, look, you talk about the promises that were made around this device. It's not a device that is intended to be something we stare at or we look at all the time. The whole purpose of the Humane AI Pin, and the word humane is important here, is to try and almost give us the opportunity to claw back some of our own time. We're not sitting having to stare at a device. We can interact with the device through the course of a day, but we don't have to focus all of our attention on it. That's kind of what this has been born out of. Of course, it utilizes all of this artificial intelligence in order to achieve that, and we probably wouldn't have that capability without the amount of work that's gone into AI. But it really is a device which is supposed to break us away from technology. So yes, we do have our smartphone, and we should complement that. At least that's my reading of what the promise of this device is. So I'll be intrigued to see how that works in reality. Of course, as you say, though, the reviews, they were not great.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I think at the end of the day, if the power of our other devices that we have on us already, and things like smart glasses do come to light and do get those AI features, which we're seeing. Like, I mean, the Meta frames, the Ray-Ban frames, they have an AI update coming any day now. It's already out in the States. It's going to be out in the rest of the world very soon, and that allows you to use the camera and to query things around the world. And I don't know about you, I've used some of the AI features in terms of just asking it questions, and it's been pretty responsive. I haven't gotten many misinformation from it, but it's been pretty good. But what we're seeing on the demos on the AI Pin is that it's just not really performing where it should. That being said, kudos to them for trying to bring something like this to light. And I hope through software updates and iterations, we're going to see this improve. I'm still super curious to get that on, but I'm also super curious to try, that Rabbit device that we talked from a couple of weeks ago, which has a similar feature set, which is the goal here, I think, is to decouple ourselves from our devices that we're staring at constantly, which is interesting. And you brought up another device called the Pendant, right? From Limitless. What's that one about?
Yeah, this is interesting. So this is a company that's been around for a little while, and the founder of the company has recently been talking about this new device that has been brought out called the Limitless Pin. Now, it's coming out soon. It will be out actually in August.
Limitless
And the purpose
Pendant
of this device, Limitless Pendant. Yes, let's not confuse the brand. No, you're absolutely right. Limitless Pendant. So this is something which is very similar to the Humane AI Pin in the way that it's designed. This almost snaps shut over the perhaps a pocket of your shirt, or maybe in your trousers, wherever you want it to be. And the idea is it just listens to you. As you press the button to activate it, a little light comes on to tell you it's recording. and that's it. It just records what you're hearing or what it's hearing through the course of a day. And then on a web interface that's combined with this, it's giving you an update almost live to what's going on. Now, I tried this not via the Pendant because it's not out yet, it's out in August, but via the web interface, which is available now. And it was very interesting talking with my good friend Sean Priest over on Double Tap. We were just before going on air, we were just talking, and we said, let's hit record on this thing. Let's actually start it recording and see what it does. And we made the point, hey, let's set up a meeting and talk about tomatoes at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. And as we were talking, it was creating a calendar event and saying, hey, do you want to add this to your calendar?
Oh,
It was
really?
incredible. Yeah, and I think this is where I feel perhaps the Humane AI Pin is kind of future gazing, whereas something like this is very much of the moment. This is something that can be achieved now and can actually work now. And I think this will perhaps be more interesting from a price point of view. The marketing on this is absolutely brilliant. They did a whole show of the marketing at $699 US, and then said, actually, that doesn't look right. Let's drop the 6 and make it 99. And the reason they did that, of course, is because the
Oh,
price of
wow.
the Humane AI Pin is $699 US. So $99 for this. It
I don't
comes
know.
out in August, but it's not the Humane AI Pin. It's different. It doesn't have a camera in it. It is pretty much only for audio
It's passive,
recording.
right? It's a more passive device, right? So I want to
Exactly.
describe
It's
it a
to
little
complement your
bit.
life.
It looks like two air ties kind of back to back with a little
Yeah.
rubber kind of bridge over the two that can stamp on anything, and the multiple colors available, which kind of cool. But it's a passive device, so it's if you want to, it can be just listening in on the conversation and basically just giving a note of your life. I'm curious if you can run this all day long and just have it just annotate your entire life when you get home, saying, "What did I say today to my wife? What did she tell me that I forgot?" And I can go back.
And
This
that's
would be
it. That's
really useful for
exactly
me,
that's
Stephen. I
exactly what this is
any
about. It's about that purpose. It's about almost not transcribing your life, although it is doing that in the background, but it's giving you actions, it's giving you summaries, it's giving you notes as you go along. And I think that is something that will become more useful as AI progresses into our lives.
It's funny because we talked about the AI pin, and earlier this week, one of the first reviews that came out was a YouTuber that we're both fond of, Marques Brownlee. He goes by
Yeah.
MKBHD, of course, on all social media, and his review wasn't a great review. It wasn't a harsh review by any means. I mean, he definitely, just like we were talking about the positivity of it and the potential of it, and the fact that it takes kahunas to actually come out with a product these days. A very honest review, something that I think, and I've watched him for a very long time, I think that nothing has changed in terms of the style of his reviews. But there was an immediate backlash by his community and just community in general, even other tech reviewers saying that, is it fair for him with an 18 million, subscriber following on YouTube around the world to bash a product like that? And the reason they brought it up was because the last product that he kind of gave such a harsh review to was a car called the Fisker Ocean, an electric car that was, struggling to begin with. And he gave a bad review. And within almost days of them even putting out that review, the company filed for bankruptcy. So people are putting two and two together, probably where they don't exist. But it got so far, Stephen, to the point that he had to put out a video a couple days later saying, "What's the role of a reviewer here? Here, I'm just doing my job. I'm giving you a impartial view of this product that was sent to me to review. I make no promises in being positive or negative about it. I'm going to give you my honest opinion." But people are holding him to the account, saying, "Well, you should have more responsibility because you have 18 million followers." What's your take on that? Because I think as a tech reviewer, someone who gets their hands on products, yeah, I try not to look for the bad in things, but if they promise A and I get D, E, F, I'm not going to lie about it because I want to make the company happy. If they don't want to send me a product because I didn't, review it the way they want, then don't send it to me. I'm going to go buy it myself and
Mhm.
review it. What's your take on this?
Well, look, I often think about the Oprah effect, right? Which is the opposite way around, where Oprah would talk about a product and then millions of people would contact companies and almost, saturate the company's capability to actually respond to the amount of orders they were getting. No one complained then. And I think the same rule applies with reviews and this kind of technology in this world. Look, I think it's important to be honest because you have to be honest with these reviews. I think if there's an issue or something that comes up as a result of the review that perhaps is inaccurate, then that should be dealt with. But no one's coming back and saying anything he said is inaccurate. That's the key point here. No one said that. What they're saying is he shouldn't have come out with such a nasty review, which it wasn't a nasty review at all. In fact, I would say he broke the review down very well. You should go check it out on YouTube if you haven't already. And, he has form on this. He's done this before. He always tries to come at this from a fair perspective. And I think you have to do that. You have to be honest with your audience, because at the end of the day, people are coming to you for advice. People come to us for advice. And when we talk about products, we have to be honest. There are reasons sometimes we'll pick up and say, this is a great product. This is, less of a good product. And I think it's important that we are able to say that. Otherwise, we just become the PR for these companies. And I'm not up for that.
One of the opening statements of his kind of rebuttal video when he came out with it, and the fact that he had to do that was just ridiculous too, was basically said is, if a product fails, is it the responsibility of the person who created the product or the person reviewing the product? And I think people have to really go back to the granular for something like this and remember that, take reviews aside, you put out a bad product and it's a bad product. You can't, there's no way of hiding that. There's no way of sugarcoating that, which is interesting. And it all got my mind thinking about just the whole lawsuit against Apple, and then going back to the lawsuit against Microsoft back in the 90s about almost penalizing people for success. He has 18 million followers. Good on him. Does that give him more responsibility? People have the choice to follow him. They didn't, he's not, yes,
Yeah.
he benefits from it, and he makes money from it, and he's turned it into an enterprise. Same way Apple, they've become a very successful company. Or are they using anti-competitive behavior? That's up for debate, and let the courts decide that. But I feel like, people constantly want to penalize people who are successful. And I don't know if that's a jealousy effect. I'm sure this.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel sometimes, though, we're at an interesting place with technology, where I feel we don't have the patience or the tolerance for a new category to emerge, for a new product to emerge. Almost if it doesn't come out of the gate 100%, then it's just not right, and we shouldn't bother with it. And I'm conscious of that as well. And that's something we need to think about. I'm sure the reviews, and in fact, I remember a lot of the reviews of the original iPhone were not great. But, we didn't have much else to compare it to. There wasn't much else out at that time. And it did seem to exceed in a lot of other areas. Whereas nowadays, we look at every other device we own, which seems to be far more capable than something like this. But the point here is that this is not a product to replace. This is a product to complement. And I think that's where perhaps people might be missing the point of what this device is for. I don't think this will be the first product to come out like this. It certainly won't be the last. It is going to be a very interesting category to emerge. And of course, in 5 years, maybe even a year's time, we'll see very different results. And we'll all be forgetting this conversation and actually looking at how wonderful, look how wonderful my PIN device is and how great it is, because we've realized the value of it.
You mentioned something interesting there, which is patience. And I think you're dead on, is that we've lost the patience, which is, I think, why companies like Apple actually wait, and they don't necessarily run out of the gate and try to compete right away, because they'd rather come out with something a little bit more refined. Stephen, a question of the day: if you can teleport to any fictional tech-inspired world, like the Matrix, Star Trek, or Wakanda, which would you choose and why? I'm going to hold you to an answer towards the end of the show. So if you guys want to get involved, don't forget you can do that now on the YouTube chat. You can connect with us on all our social media, feedback at accesstechlive.com, and of course, get involved. When we return from a short break, the Canadian government is dedicating billions of dollars to AI in Canada. But what does that really mean? Michael Hainsworth joins us to break it all down after a quick break here on Access Tech Live.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back.